I'm home, and I love it. I'm home, where I belong.
It's always nice to come home, but many Americans are at risk of foreclosure and losing their homes. Making home affordable from the U.S. government has already helped over 1 million struggling homeowners like these. The sooner you act, the better chance we can help you.
I'm home, where I belong.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phalen on LSN Television, Channel 9, Time Warner, and also on 90.9 FM, WFCO Radio. Do appreciate the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy that produce this program and the folks over at Time Warner and also 90.9 that give us the opportunity to share lots of things going on within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. Special guest this week is Sergeant Mark Churchill. Good to see you.
Good to see you again, Sheriff.
Sergeant Churchill is a commander of the radio room, and wow, and I've often said this, and you've heard this many times, I don't think there's any job any tougher in law enforcement, whether it's the city, whether it's the county or whatever, than being a dispatcher. What a tough job.
I would agree. They've got a difficult job. The deputies in the car handle calls for their sector. The dispatchers handle every call for the county.
Yeah, it's kind of for most people, it's the first contact they have with law enforcement when they call in.
It is the first contact they have with the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office when they call in. And sometimes their needs are great, other times their needs are minor, but it is the first contact.
And before the program, we were talking a little bit about some of the calls for service. I was amazed at the number of calls we received from cell phones today.
Oh,
it just blows me away.
This year alone, we had 21,479 cellular 911 calls.
And how does that compare to landline?
Landline, we had roughly about 6,212, so it's a big difference.
Yeah, by and large, now it's all coming in off cell phones.
And statistically, our office, the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, receives 57% of all the 911 calls made in the county.
Wow. You know, when we talk about 911 calls, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, some people think you call 911 if there's a cat in the tree. I bet you probably get some of those calls, or they're kind of minor in nature. Someone vandalized my mailbox, those kind of things. What are some areas where people want to call 911? When's it appropriate? When isn't?
If it's a life-threatening event, if your life is in danger or the life of another is in danger, if you're observing a crime in progress,
right,
such as a burglary or a robbery, things of those natures that need immediate law enforcement or medical attention.
Mm-hmm. What percentage of our calls are emergency in nature?
I would say probably a high degree, 85 to 90% are high.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. What's the most common type of call that you get?
Generally, it's a wide variety of calls. You'll receive 911 calls regarding domestic disputes,
mm-hmm,
or there'll be observing maybe a drunk driver. A lot of those that we do receive on cellular calls, they're
right,
what they perceive as a drunk driver.
Okay.
Burglaries in progress. We had one the other day where a neighbor actually watched a suspect climb through the neighbor's back window, and we had her on 911 until the deputies arrived and made an apprehension.
Wow. How about that? Now, before we went on the air, you were sharing some statistics. Some things as far as the numbers and volume of different calls that we got. You want to share some of those?
Actually, I do. Our office received approximately 829 911 hang-ups, which means for some reason 829 times someone called 911, and as the dispatcher answered, they hung up.
Wow.
We do have the ability to see a callback number for the resident that is calling, even if it is a cellular device. If we can get that person on the phone long enough, we do get what's called a phase 2, which shows who the caller's phone number is. And it is our obligation to call back that caller and find out why they called 911 and why did they hang up in case the phone was taken from them. Maybe they were stopped from proceeding with the 911 call, and it's a way for us to follow back up to make sure it's not a real
Now, if you can't get a hold of them, we'll send a car out.
Absolutely. We'll send a car. If it's a landline 911 call, we'll send a call to the residence. If we can geographically place the cellular 911 call to a specific area, we will send a deputy to that area to patrol to see if they can find anything unusual.
Now, and I don't know if I should say this, but this is kind of a personal story. A few years ago, my granddaughter, they were just kind of playing on the phone, and they were dialing, and they called 911, and a deputy came out and kind of told them, you don't want to be playing on the phone. You know, these little. So do you get some calls from kids that are just getting on there and messing around?
Actually, we do. We get some cellular 911 calls where maybe a parent has bought a new phone, and they've given their old phone to the child to play with, and that's okay. It's fun.
Yeah.
But be sure to take the battery out. If you don't take the battery out, the phone will still operate in emergency mode, and if a 911 call is placed, it will go through.
So that, I think that's important. Now, so other things as far as some statistical data from the radio room.
Well, we averaged about 4,490 CAD entries per month during 2011, which means on average 4,490 times a dispatcher was making an entry into the computer system, whether it was
through some kind of call for service,
whether it's a contact with a citizen, a contact with a patrol car, or an entry made for an extra patrol request, or just a log entry regarding a particular act that was done.
The other thing that you have a lot of is the vacation watches, right?
We do. Our office handled 1,037 vacation watches during 2011.
Wow, so that's one of the most popular programs we have within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office.
It is, and it's a free service our office offers to the citizens of Fairfield County, that if they do go on vacation, they can contact our office and we'll watch their residents while they're gone, up to 3 times per day. It just depends on call volume, but generally it's 3 times a day. An officer will stop by, check on the residents, make sure everything's okay.
When someone calls into the sheriff's office, especially if it's an emergency, what are some things that the dispatcher needs to know?
First and foremost, we're going to want to know where is the emergency. A lot of people are going to go, well, don't you want to know who's calling or what their phone number is? The most important thing for us to know is where is the emergency? Because if we lose you after that, we at least have a location where we can send a deputy to respond to the call for service. So that's the most important thing, is where is the emergency?
And then what would be some other information that they would want to relay as far as a suspect vehicle and those type of things?
We're going to ask the caller, once they tell us where the location of the emergency is, we're going to ask them what type of emergency. If there are people involved, who are they? Are they known to the caller or unknown to the caller? Is she or he able to provide a physical description of the caller or of the suspect vehicle? More things for us to get while the deputies are responding. If the suspects happen to leave the area, we can have a description of the vehicle, description of the suspects. Deputy may pass them or encounter them on the way to the emergency call.
I think a lot of our viewers and listeners may not know, Sarge, some of the things that the dispatchers actually have to do during the tour of duty. If you are into our radio room, it's amazing how they have to multitask. And I think that's one of the qualities that you look for when you're hiring one of our dispatchers, right? An ability to multitask, those type of things.
That is correct. They have to be able to multitask. They have to be able to do multiple things at one time. We do dispatch for 11 township fire departments and 5 township police departments, and also the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. So at any given time, they could be answering 911, they could be dispatching a fire EMS crew, or talking to a law enforcement officer on the radio.
Now, the other area of responsibility, and I think this is important that we talk about, is our website. You've got some involvement in that. Some great information out there on the sheriff's website.
That is. At our website, you can go and you can check for crime reporting. On our website, in the lower right-hand side, you can click on what's called a crime map. And on that map, it'll show recent crimes in the area that you've selected. You can pan, zoom, or enter a specific address to get information about the crimes that are occurring in that area.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely, and it's almost in real time, right?
It is.
So also and by the way, for our listeners and viewers, The website is www.sheriff.fairfield.oh.us. Again, that's www.sheriff.fairfield.oh.us. Also on there, we have homes that are in foreclosure, that are for sale.
Right.
We have our sexual offenders and a little bit about some of the different units within the sheriff's office. And during the winter, you'll have a weather alerts, don't you?
Yes, if during inclement weather, if we go into a level 1, 2, 3, or 4, we will post that on our website. And it also gives a description of what each level means and what they need to be aware of.
And that's going to be coming up soon, isn't it, as we get into this the winter time here?
Some of us hope not.
What's some of the and you've been a commander of the radio room how many years now?
Since May of 2006.
2006. Can you think of, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, can you think of any calls that were kind of unusual or something that really kind of stands out in your mind? Because occasionally I get some nice letters from you of a job well done for our dispatchers. And like I said earlier, I think it's a tough job because they're answering the call. This is their first contact between their problem and the sheriff's office. They have to be able to be reassured, especially if there's some kind of medical emergency and those type of things. Is there something that comes to mind?
There is. We received a call, and if I'm recollecting, it's Bremen area. A young child called, said their mother was not responding. She was laying on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know what was wrong with her, and it was a young child, and our dispatcher kept them on the phone and kept them calm until the EMS arrived to the mother, and apparently she went into a diabetic shock.
Wow.
But the dispatcher did an excellent job maintaining composure with the child, keeping the child calm. She instructed the child to go unlock the door for the fire EMS personnel that were responding and kept them on the phone until they got there.
The other thing is we get into some bad weather coming up. What happens if we have a breakdown in the communication system? How does that work if in fact our radio room would become immobilized?
We have what's called backup PSAPs. If our PSAP, Public Service Answering Point, happens to fail, everything, all the 911 calls would then roll to Pickerington Police Department.
Okay.
And what we would do is we would send staffing to Pickerington Police Department to help with that overflow of call volume. And they have a redundant radio system, and they use the same computer system that we do. And within an hour, we can be back up talking to our units, logging calls, and answering 911.
So we've got some things in place so we make sure that we continue to have good service, safety, and those kind of things.
Absolutely. All 3 PSAPs in the county, Lancaster Police Department, Pickerington Police Department, and our office work very closely in making sure that we have redundancy. If problems arise, one can take over for the other.
Okay, we have with us today Sergeant Mark Churchill. One of these days, hopefully, it'll be Lieutenant. We got a test coming up before long.
I will be taking that test.
Before we go off the air, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, I've been with the Sheriff's Office since September of 1992, so
wow.
I'm coming my
Long
20th
time.
year.
Long time.
Which it's been very rewarding. This has been the only law enforcement agency that I've worked for. I enjoy the people that I work with. They are very caring, very giving people, and it's a side of us that a lot of citizens don't see because a lot of the interaction we have with them tends to be on the negative side. But we are just like anybody else. We've just chose a profession that benefits the public, and we want to help the public.
And you've been helping out over at Lancaster High School.
I have. I'm also the president of the Lancaster Band Boosters.
Congratulations.
My son's a senior this year, and he's been in the band program since 6th grade, and it is just a fantastic organization. Great parents, great teachers.
Sergeant, I do appreciate you being with us. Lots of things going on in the radio room. You made some great improvements in the communication system over the years. It's a tough job, and I know that you're there many times in the wee hours of the morning if they're having problems. You've got a great staff, and so I appreciate you on your leadership.
Thank you very much.
This has been a program that we record weekly at with Fairfield Christian Academy. They help put the program together. J.T. Burcham is very, very helpful in this program. I do appreciate him. He doesn't always like me to say that, but the guy does a terrific job, and we appreciate it. In the coming year, 2011, we're going to be having detectives here. We're going to be having other members from the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. We're going to be talking about the deputy that takes care of our sex offenders is going to be joining us, along with the deputy that takes care of some of the responsibilities at Job and Family Service. We've got some great programs coming up in 2012. I certainly hope you will join us. Well, the clock on the wall says we've got to go. So until next week, same time, same place. If you're out there, buckle up, be careful. God bless, and we'll see you right here next week.